Hey guys, we are very excited about today's episode. We have Sarah Ashlee Barker on the show. She's going into her final year at the University of Alabama. She is a great college women's basketball athlete. Alabama just came off arguably the best women's basketball season in program history. They finished 24-10 and went to the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament. Sarah Ashlee is averaging about 17 points per game last year. She had 6 rebounds per game. She can play at all levels. She can dribble, she can pass, she can shoot, she can rebound. She's an all-around athlete. She's got some great insight for us today. She was also a stud in high school. She played at Spain Park High School in Hoover, Alabama. She led the Jaguars to 2 7A state championships. She won Player of the Year twice in high school. She had over 2,200 points in her high school career. She had over 1,100 rebounds, averaging a double-double, essentially. Her father is legendary Alabama quarterback Jay Barker. She has 3 brothers. And Sarah has joined our Blackwatch sports team as a coach and a camp liaison. And we have a camp coming up with her on September 21st. It's specifically for budding youth athletes. So you can come check that out. She's gonna have some awesome basketball insights for us. We're working on athletic development. She's a highly driven individual. She has some great insights on life and college athletics. So it's gonna be a great episode. Stay tuned. Sarah Ashlee Barker, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing very well. I'm so happy that you're here on the show with us today. We've got some really cool things to talk about. Not too often do we get to sit down with someone of your pedigree. And I'm talking about your college pedigree, what you're doing right now at the University of Alabama. And also, you were a stud in high school. And I was looking up so many stuff on you, and I saw, I was pulling articles from Gatorade, and which is so cool because you were the Gatorade Player of the Year.
I was. Yeah. My senior year. Yep.
That is so cool. I was pulling articles from Gatorade. I was pulling articles from the Alabama Sports Writers Association. You've been all over the place. We said some of your what you've done before, but just your high school pedigree is amazing. Not so many people get to live, honestly, the dream. You live the high school dream, and now you're doing it in college at such a high level. You've got aspirations to enter into the WNBA, and that's coming up. So we got some cool stuff to talk about today.
That's awesome. I'm excited. Let's do it.
So we are in the off season for women's college basketball and high school basketball right now. What does this off season look like for you going into the 2024-2025 season?
Yeah. So, luckily for being a Division I sport and being at the University of Alabama, we're allowed to practice in June and July. So we've got these hour weeks, in season, you've got 20-hour weeks. Out of season, which is what we're in now, is an 8-hour week. So you've got 4 hours of, you can do strictly basketball stuff, and you've got 4 hours of weights and conditioning. And so, how our week was pretty much every single week was, we had Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We did, skill workout, and then we would go to a lift, and then we would do a conditioning. And for me, on those Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I would even put in an extra skill workout before my other skill workout because that was the stuff that I was working on just myself. It was kind of the things that I needed to work on going to the season. The mandatory skill workout is what is the team guards working on? What are we working on together? Movements, pace, how we can play together, that kind of stuff in those workouts. And then, Tuesdays we had a 2-hour team practice, and it was a legit 2-hour practice, up and down, playing against each other, teams, going at it, competitive. And then Friday was a fun day. We got to go do conditioning, but we got to go box. And that was a lot of fun. So it's kind of like, we're doing all this basketball, and then you go to the end of the week and you kind of box it all out. But that was a lot of fun. They just find ways for us to, enjoy our summer too. So we practice in the mornings, and then you kind of have that afternoon to enjoy your summer, do what you need to do. Weekends off, which is nice because I think you don't want to just kill us and burn us. Because, if you go from, basketball is a long season, it is. You go from November to pretty much April. Really, you start at the end of September. So you're going from September to April, and that's a long season. It's a lot on your mind, a lot on your body. And so I think in the summer, it's like you're going to get in 5 days a week. 5 days out of the 7 days a week and really grind for those 5 days. And then they want us to be able to enjoy life and enjoy the summer too.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit before the podcast, and you're solidified in your spot, but summertime is you're playing for a spot.
Absolutely.
Like you really are. If you're on the fringe of starting or not starting, or maybe just getting playing time, you've got to be at everything. You've got to show up, and you got to knock some stuff down in the scrimmage.
Yeah, absolutely. It might be a little bit lighter, but on us with hours and stuff like that. But you're competing. Because you're showing the coach what you're capable of doing, because then that gets you ready to go in September and October, and they already have kind of what you are in their mind going into September, October. So if you're not where you need to be at the end of the summer, they're kind of like, they may not trust you at the beginning of September and October, and then you just got to build on top of that. So you really got to solidify what you can do, how hard you work in the summer.
Absolutely. I think with something school, I think all athletes can relate to this in the off season if they take their sport serious.
Right.
In the off season, you just went through a full season. You probably analyzed your game at this point, and you found some things that you want to work on. Like, so you said, like, you're doing the sessions that your coach has set up for you, your team has set up for you. Yep. What's something in particular this offseason that you've been focused on for yourself?
Yeah, definitely my left hand. So every Tuesday and Thursday of, the time that I choose to go work out on my own with one of my coaches, I've literally been straight left hand. I can't use my right hand at all. So we'll go for about 45 minutes, and it's all ball handling left hand. It's all finishing left hand. It's touch shots, like all that kind of stuff with my left hand, because a lot of teams last year were trying to force me left. And that's when my decision making, when I was going left, I'm not as dominant as with my right hand, because my right hand is my dominant hand. So when they were forcing me left, sometimes I wouldn't go left or finish with my left. I tried to get it with my right because I was trying to get up as quick. But now it's like I've got to be able to protect with my right and be able to finish with my left. And so just being able to be confident in my left hand and not even have to think twice about what I'm doing with my left hand like I am with my right hand, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think that's so pivotal. I think a lot of athletes coming up in basketball, particularly, they see guys like Kyrie Irving, who have this beautiful just layup package where and everything, like they'll do some stuff with their right. It's really right hand dominant, but they don't realize how good they are with their left hand. Their foundation is so solid that now they're at a whole nother level with their dominant hand.
Yes.
So I think it's awesome that you're working on that. I remember I used to do everything with my left hand. I was to brush my teeth, eat a meal. Have you ate a meal yet with your left hand?
I have before, yes, I have. That's something that I might start doing now, and it will make me do, if I do more with my left hand outside of just basketball, that can definitely help me too. So.
It just takes like 30 minutes longer, but it's still solid.
Right.
So we talked about this a little bit, but you were a stud in college, and I've got your stats here. We're going to go through some of this stuff in a little bit, but you were a major problem for teams in high school as well at a big level. So I think it's so cool when we're able to do this is look back and see how we developed. Right. So you can tell me, what did Sarah Ashlee look like as a sophomore in high school versus a junior versus a senior, and then now going into, this is your second year at Alabama. You had going into your third year at Alabama. Yep. How can you look at yourself season over season and say, okay, this season I was this type of player. This season, I was this type of player. Walk me through your development in your career. I want to tell you about the first basketball camp that we have coming up this year with Sarah Ashlee. It is September 21st. This camp is designed to help build an athletic prowess so that the athletic characteristics that we're building transfer over into the sport of basketball. So let's build the athleticism, let's connect it with skill, and let's put it on the court. That's what we're going to shoot for. Sarah Ashlee has a great game plan. She's going to be bringing some of her teammates from the University of Alabama, and we also have some other Division I athletes who are going to come in and help us run the camp, simply because they want to pour in to the lives of young athletes and help them to be better than what they were. So again, that camp is September 21st. We have a link in the description if you want to check that out. So take a look at it. It's going to be a great camp.
Honestly, my story is a little different because when I was in 8th grade, I had to have two knee surgeries. And basically I was kind of told, like, if the second knee surgery didn't work, they didn't know if I was going to be able to compete at the level that I was at, or even like play basketball like in college or anything like that. Like I had a really serious knee injury, and it was this thing called osteochondritis dissecans, which is kind of too hard to explain, but I mean, it's a bone injury, and I had to have a cadaver in my knee and stuff like that. And if that bone didn't take, they told me like it's a foreign object. It could reject, like your body could reject it, and you may have to have another surgery. So it was kind of like, I was very fortunate enough to be where I am now, because I got told when I was in 8th grade, hey, you may not be able to jump as fast, as high as you used to, or run as fast as you used to, or cut or jump in general. Like, we don't know what's going to really happen until you make a full recovery from the surgery. So my freshman year for me was more of a mental game than anything, because it was like my mind, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I wasn't as fast. I couldn't jump as high. I couldn't cut as much as I need, or as fast as I needed to, or as quick, and that kind of stuff. And so my freshman year was hard, because I was like, I knew how good I was, but then I literally was on crutches for 9 months. I couldn't run for, really 6 months, and I couldn't run for 9 months. It was a 1.5 year injury, and I'm like sitting here like, I could do all this stuff before, and then now I couldn't really do it. And so, I would say probably around the end of my freshman year is really when I started to feel confidence again in who I was as a player and kind of developing. And then I went and played my AAU circuit after my freshman season of high school, and I picked up my first offer from UAB. And when I picked up my first offer from UAB, that was kind of like, wow, like all this struggle that I went through my freshman year and this, when I didn't have confidence and I was like, am I ever going to be able to be back to what I was used to being when a year ago? It was like all that confidence just got instilled in me as soon as I got my first offer, because it was like all those things that you went through and the questioning of, am I going to be that player ever again? And it was kind of like they had faith in me. They saw something that, and so I love UAB. My brother plays there. And so I've always had just a gratitude to them because that was my first offer. And then my sophomore year is when I really was like, I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to go play Division I basketball. And I really just started to train. And I was growing at the time too. So I was like 5'3" in 8th grade. And I was growing all the way up from like freshman year, senior year, all the way up to like 6 foot. And so I think just every year from my sophomore year to my junior year, my sophomore year was when I really realized, I can do this. I'm good. Yeah. And then my junior year was about, what do I need to work on to not only get me to the next level, but to be able to play at the next level. And so I think that my sophomore year, I was around a really good group of girls. We had 2 girls going to play Division I basketball, so they took more of the shots than I did. But I learned under them, and I learned how to play basketball without just the ball. Yeah. And that was my sophomore year. My junior year, I really had to take on a role of shooting all the shots and having that pressure and that leadership mentality that I had to have that I didn't really have to have as a sophomore. And so I think that I was able to learn from people my sophomore year and let that translate to my junior year. And then my junior year, it was just more of like, how consistent can I be able to shoot the ball? Like, I think you've got to be able to make open shots. And so it was just get in the gym, rep. And then junior year going into senior year, I worked with Coach Barber out at Pinson, and he helped me out a ton with just my ball handling, my skill, just doing things that I didn't know that I really could do, if that makes sense. And he kind of broke down the game in like ways that I've never seen before. And so I think training with him that whole summer, I didn't play AAU that year, so training with him that whole summer gave me a whole summer of skill development for about 4 months that led into my senior year. And my senior year, from a ball handling standpoint, I was playing the 1. And I don't really play the 1 now, but like as a senior in high school, and I wasn't getting recruited to go play the 1, but I was playing the 1 in high school. And so I think it helped me along the way of that ball handling, that skill from going into my senior year is really what took a jump in my ball handling. And you've got to be able to handle the ball as a guard. Like, you have to. If you don't, like, you can't touch the ball really. In today's game, you have to be, yes, because if you get a defensive rebound, you've got to get out and push and transition, and you have to be the one to do it. You're not outletting it to the point guard anymore. Like, you're going. And so I think just the reps that I had to take in high school, the learning from other people too, just how you lead people. Because as one of the best players on your team, you've got to be a leader too. You've got to be able to lead other people, because it's not just about you. It's about, how can I get all these other girls around me to be successful and help the team as well. And then obviously going into my college.
Well, before that, I want to cut you off, but what was it that Coach Barber, you said, what was it that you said he showed you aspects of the game that you had never seen? What was he showing you that really opened your eyes to basketball?
Yeah, I think it was just how you move with the ball. It was the pace. Like, my pace I was 1 speed pretty much until I got with Coach Barber. Really, like, I'm going to be completely honest. And if you're 1 speed, it's not good for you. And so he really taught me how to play with pace, how to read stuff, and that I can slow down in what I'm trying to read instead of trying to be so quick. He's like, you're already fast. You already can explode. He was like, control how you move and how your body's moving with the ball, and really like work on, if you're here and you like work on the head fakes of if you're about to go shoot it and then you cross over because they lean up to go contest you, and stuff like that. And so the pace of how he taught me, like, literally, it's funny because the first session that I ever had with him, he was like, you got rhythm? Do you know how to dance? I'm like, I can't dance at all. And he's like, just try to find rhythm when you're playing the game of basketball. And that really helped me, because that first session, I was like out there trying to do stuff with him and like kind of glide and stuff like that. And I couldn't do it. Like, really, I couldn't do it. And so he just helped me be able to learn how to play with that pace, and that, you're going fast and you stop and you take off too. And that first step is you got to get out. You got to explode off that first step. And so that really helped me a lot, was the pace. And I don't think people realize how important the pace of the game is. If you see Luka play in the NBA, he plays the slowest I've ever seen somebody play. And he is one of the best guards in the world. He controls his pace. And if you look at some of the greatest of all time, like Michael Jordan looks like he's just jogging all over the place. And he's not even going to another gear because he controls his pace so well, especially in today's game now, when you bring in like the Euro step and the slow down second step that you can take. And I think Luka
has mastered that. He takes that slow first step, and then he slows even further down for his second step, and the guy's in the air, and he's still taking his second step.
Yeah.
Pacing is massive. So he brought you that. You make it through to your senior year of high school.
Yep.
You have a killer high school career. What was it like being recruited going into, because you went to Georgia first off, and you had a couple of different schools looking at you. What was that recruiting process look like before you went to college?
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to go play in the SEC. So when my AAU coach would come to me, he's like, hey, this coach wants to talk to you. Do you want to, how do you want to go about this? They want you to come to campus, do you elite camp, stuff like that. I strictly told him, I was like, I want to go SEC. So really, if other schools kind of come to you, and this was after I got the UAB offer, it was about a year after that where I really realized I wanted to go to SEC. Gotcha. So I started to pick up some SEC offers. Auburn, Georgia, Arkansas. I'm trying to think who else. I committed at a pretty early age, honestly. I committed as a junior, like my early junior year. And
what made you commit so early?
I knew in my heart that God was leading me to Georgia. I really did. I knew in my heart I did. And so, for me, I think that if I would have kept playing AAU, I only played AAU my freshman year going into my sophomore year. And then my sophomore year going into my junior year, I was hurt. And then my junior year going into my senior year, I was already committed, so I didn't play AAU. Mm-hmm. They were like, if you want to play, play. If you don't, then you just train. And that's what I did with Coach Barber, is I trained. And that helped me tremendously, honestly. But going through that recruiting process, I knew I wanted to go SEC. I knew I wanted to stay driving distance from Birmingham, because family is very important to me. I wanted to be able to drive home if I needed to drive home. I wanted my parents to be able to drive to me if I needed them to be there. And very blessed that I was 3.5 hours away, because I had a lot of stuff going on my freshman and sophomore year that a lot of people don't know about. And just from a mental aspect of it. And so going to Georgia when I committed, so crazy story about how this happens. Joni Taylor, one of the best people in my life. I love that woman. I would rave about her 24/7. I went to an elite camp, and I had other SEC schools had offered me at the time. And she looks at me and she's like, look, I want to offer you. You're good enough as a player. You're good enough to get offered, but I don't know you as a person. And to me, that stuck to me, because I'm the type of person, I'm a relationship type kid. I'm a relationship type person. I need to have a good relationship. I knew that where I was going, it needed to be, I had a great relationship with the coach. I had a great relationship with the staff, team, everybody. So that always stuck with me. So then we built a relationship from, my sophomore year, the beginning of my sophomore year, to about January or February. And then I went on campus, and she offered me in person on an unofficial visit in February. When she offered me in person my sophomore year, I knew that's where I was supposed to go, but I didn't want to commit right on the spot when she offered me, because I really wanted to go home, think about it, kind of let the summer go through. But I knew, I didn't tell anybody that I knew when she offered me that's where I wanted to go. But it was like something just felt right. Something felt like God was telling me, hey, this is who you need to go play for. Mm-hmm. So then summer year of my sophomore year, I limited it down to Auburn, Alabama, and Georgia. And then I decided to commit around September, I believe. I went, and I didn't want to commit until I was in person. So I wanted to commit in person because she did everything in person for me. So she told me she wanted to offer me, but she couldn't yet because she needed to get to know me. Then she didn't offer me over the phone. She only would offer me in person. So I was like, I really want to commit in person too. That was very important to me. So when I committed to her, I knew that was the right place to go. And to this day, I would never, if I had to go back, I would hope that everything happened just the way it did. I would never want to go back with it. And so when I got to Georgia my freshman year, her and I had a great relationship because, she was recruiting me since I was a freshman. I committed as a junior. So it was just me and her talking from when I was a junior until I got to college. I wasn't worried about any other coach. I was locked in with Georgia. She's 100% the reason why I went to Georgia. That's pretty much the only reason why I went to Georgia, is because of the coach.
And you broke a lot of hearts. I'm sure Alabama thought they had you in the bag.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. It was a lot of people were a little frustrated, but at the same time, I wanted to go make a name for myself and be Sarah Ashlee Barker as basketball, and not going to Alabama as Jay Barker's daughter. And that's no stab to my dad at all. That's just, and he knew that. He was very supportive of, he knew that Joni was a great coach, and that, Joni played at Alabama, so she had some Alabama ties too. So that's what I would tell my dad. I was like, hey, she played at Alabama, and he'd joke with me, but he was supportive all the way. He never put any pressure on me when it came to recruiting. My mom is like my hero. She felt the same way about Joni as I did. She knew that's where I wanted to go before I even told her. When I told her, she goes, I know. She literally looked at me and was like, I know that's where you're going. You're going to Georgia. And I was like,
moms do that.
Moms know. But yeah, when I got to Georgia, it was amazing. And there's there's things that I wish I would have done differently when it came to, being there as a freshman, of not getting in my head as much. But at the same time, I don't think I would be the player that I am today if I didn't go through those things that I had to go through as a freshman and sophomore.
Go into that a little bit. Yeah. What was that? So you go from a senior year, you are a dominant high school player. I mean, you're 2-time 7A player of the year. That's amazing. You go from that to freshman year, and people don't get the speed difference. You can't see the speed difference watching on TV.
Right.
What was the biggest, I guess speed could be one of them, the biggest differences you saw as a freshman?
Yeah, I think it's just understanding that the reps that you get are so important.
On the floor.
On the floor in the games. And the shots that you're taking are so important because you're not getting as many shots as you took in high school. I probably shot about 30 shots a game in high school. Now I'm going to Georgia as a freshman. I'm probably shooting only 5 shots a game. So going from 30 to 5 is completely different. If I shot 30 shots a game, I'm probably having a 20-point game every single game. If you're shooting 5 shots a game and you go 1 for 5, you have 2 points.
Absolutely.
That's not good. You've got to be able to go in there and be 3 for 5 or 2 for 5 or 2 for 4. And so I think the biggest difference for me was understanding the right shot and the wrong shot, because when you take a lot of shots in high school, you can take a lot of wrong shots, but it's the best shot for your team because you're the best player.
Absolutely.
But in college, that's different because you're going in with all these other people who were the best player at their high school, the best player in their state, and you're all coming together. And so I think just understanding, what shot is the best shot for the team, what shot is the best shot for me too. So if I'm taking a shot that looks like the best shot for the team, but it's not a shot that I take, why would I take that? Mm-hmm. And so just understanding that, and understanding that you could play 10 minutes in one game, you could play 20 minutes in another game, or you could play 5 minutes in another game. Mm-hmm. If I had played 20 minutes in one game and I had, let's say, 12 points as a freshman, I could play the next game and only play 5 minutes. And you have to understand in your head, it's nothing that you did. It's just how college works. That's just how the game works. As a freshman, you don't get as many chances as a senior does. They put their time in. Experience over skill sometimes is what a coach will go with, honestly. Yeah. Now, if you're coming in there as a freshman and you're just dominating and you look like you've been experienced, they're going to play you over a senior at the end of the day. They're going to play the best player, but experience comes a long way, and people don't realize how important experience is.
Yeah, I love your shot selection concept there, because that's not something that I would think about. But so many times the best players on the team, the guys who are starting a lot, or the girls who are starting a lot, they have the luxury of kind of easing into a game and getting familiar with the game.
Absolutely.
If you're fighting for a spot and you're a freshman, you're coming in, you're expected to
make a shot right when you come in.
Exactly.
You sit on the bench, and that's something that I had to adjust to too. I've never sat on the bench really in my life until I got to my freshman year in college. And I'm sitting there and I'm sitting there when am I going to go in? When am I going to go in? And then when you get that opportunity to go in, you have to produce, and you have to know how the game's going. You can't go in there and make a mistake or two, because if you go in there and make a mistake or two, you're out. You're gone. You're gone. And it's nothing personal. And I think that's what I had to realize is I was why do they get more chances? Why don't I get but it's not that's not what it is. It's nothing personal that a coach is trying to do. It's just that's how the game is made. As a freshman, you have to understand. And I think that's what I wish someone would have told me going into my freshman year. I think that I wish someone would have been understand your reps are valuable, and understand that it may not seem like you're getting as much of an opportunity as a senior is, but you're still getting an opportunity, but they've also put their work in and their time into, and you have to put your work in and time into.
You haven't earned it yet.
Exactly.
I love that. I think tailing off that, something that's really cool about looking at your career, I've got your stats over here, is that every year, we're talking high school or college, you showed a linear progression. Mm-hmm. You showed a pretty good progression. So oftentimes you'll get these killer athletes come in, and they're the same player they were their sophomore year as they are their senior year. They don't show much progression. Yep. You have progressed, and particularly going from last year to this year, mm-hmm. I saw you had a jump. You had a 10-point per game increase, Absolutely. And you had an 11% field goal percentage increase.
Absolutely.
You don't see that much. Mm-mm. What did you do in the off season to make that happen, or what clicked so that you could do that?
Right. I think when I knew that I was going to be one of the players that was going to be taking a lot of the shots last year. So when I transferred to Alabama, I was transferring, and they already had some girls that were taking all the shots. They already had some girls they had a girl that got drafted, Brittany Davis. She took the most shots my junior year and in college as anybody did on our team. So I knew going into that I was going to have to find a role where it wasn't going to be I was going to be getting a lot of shots, honestly. I was going to have to find a role because they already had a team and they already had it placed. So I figured out I'm going to rebound well. I'm going I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to play defense well because I knew I could defend. I'm going to try and do that to the best of my ability. And then the shots will come as they go. So throughout the season of my junior year, I started to get more shots. But that was also because I started to earn the more shots. I started to be able to, where they wanted to put me in stuff and put me in plays to be able to get me shots, but also confidence as well. I think confidence is huge. And so I think going into my junior year, it was a fresh start. It was new coaches, a new opportunity. I'm very blessed that Christy gave me an opportunity to come back home and play for her. I mean, she's a great coach, great person. And just how that whole story went with Joni leaving, you know, it sucked, I will say, like, because I've always wanted to play for Joni, but then at the same time, God opened up a door and she went to Texas A&M. That was what was best for her. And then what was best for me was coming home and playing for Coach Christy. And I was so thankful that I got to go from a great coaching staff to another great coaching staff. Yeah. And just grateful that Christy let me back in, because I said no to her. I was like, no, I'm not coming to you. I'm going to play for somebody else. But she, as soon as I put my name in the portal, she was like, I want you, you can be a great star. You can you can come be who you want to be here. So the offense that Alabama has really fits kind of the style that I love playing. And so I think that was understanding the offense my junior year. And that's what jumped to my senior year, was because I was able to not even have to think about what I was doing last year. I already knew what the system was. And you have to make that adjustment when you transfer. It's a whole new different system, different offense. It doesn't matter how good you are. It really doesn't. Like you have to adjust. And offense, whether someone likes it or not, you've got to look at an offense of a team, of where you're going to play, because you've got to be able to figure out how you can fit into that role. And so I think that junior year, I played as a role player. Senior year, I knew I wasn't going to be a role player. I knew I was going to have to take those shots. And honestly, after my junior year, I really kind of took a break from basketball a little bit in the month of May. I was like, I'm not really going to touch a basketball. I'm kind of just going to give myself a little break, because I never did. I always came home and was grinding. Mm-hmm. And that's honestly the biggest jump for me, was I was able to rest my mind and my body. And then when I came back into the summer for my senior year, it was about, yes, you need to get in and get your reps in, but what can we do in the film room to show you how you can be better? How, like, it doesn't have to always be just like on your body, like the stress on your body. You don't have to go do a 30-minute workout to get better. You can, my position coach, Roman Tubner, he's at Tennessee now, but he would bring me in the gym and he would walk me through stuff. And it wasn't even anything on my body, but he would show me how to do things. And he was like, hey, like, when we're going into this game, this is what's going to be open. You've got to do this, this, this. And it was crazy how he just kind of detailed it out, and it was exactly what he said was going to be in the game. And I mean, it was about almost every time he was like, they're going to try and stunt you, and you have to do this to be able to do this. But me listening to him and him showing me that on the court, instead of just putting me through a 30-minute skill workout, was so much more beneficial to me, because I already worked hard. Yeah. I don't need somebody to show me how to work hard. I know that I'm going to get my shots in. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do extra ball handling. I'm going to do what I need to do. But it was more seeing the visual stuff that he helped me with that really, I think, helped click in my brain, was like, hey, like, you can take off a little bit of basketball, but how can you still learn basketball and grow outside of having to be on the court and doing stuff with a basketball? You can do so much more with just having the basketball in your hand, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And that's honestly what really jumped my game. It was mind more than anything. I mean, some of the things that I went through when I was at Georgia my freshman and sophomore year, it was off the court stuff, and I didn't realize how much that off the court stuff led into affecting my game. And so once I kind of got through all of that, and really, like, I didn't realize how down bad I kind of was, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, I mean, and once I kind of got out of that and realized, like, hey, like, let's not take what's off the court and put it on the court, because I wore my emotions on my sleeve. I had, like, if I would mess up in a game, I would get so pissed off, but it really wasn't about me messing up. It was about kind of the stuff that I had off the court with. I mean, I lost the most important person in my life my freshman year. I mean, because of COVID, and that was really hard. And then some stuff happened with my family my sophomore year that a lot of people don't know about, and they don't need to know about. Yeah. But I think that's why it's so, like, how grateful and faithful that, like, Jesus is, because I know that there's reasons why I went through those things, and I would not. Of course, I would still want my nanny to be here, but I would never take back what happened. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again. Yeah. And so I think that getting through all of that, it really brought me down, and I didn't realize how much it affected my basketball until last year, when I really went to somebody and I talked to somebody. Mm-hmm. I mean, I went and saw a Christian counselor, and I was like, I've got to figure out how I can get all this out of my brain when I play basketball. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the most important thing for me, was like, how do I get all these things off the court to not affect me on the court? And that was the biggest thing that helped me with all my points last year. A lot of people are like, what skill stuff what did this? And I was like, no, it had nothing to do with basketball. It was all about off the court stuff. And like to this day, I probably have the best relationship that I have with Jesus. I mean, my faith it's somewhere that I want to continue to grow. It's something that I want to just get stronger and stronger and stronger. But when all that stuff happened my freshman and sophomore year, I ran from God. Yeah. And now I came back and he pulled me back. And it's just crazy because he was always there when I wasn't looking for him, but he was still there and he's still there today. And so I think that a lot of people may not understand that and may not understand how that can help me in basketball, but it does, because I know that my life and my basketball is a gift from God. And I know that I'm very lucky to be able to be in this position, and that everything that he's put me through in life, it might be obstacles and struggles, but God always promises there's good that comes out of it. And literally every single thing that I'm a testament that good has come out of what he has put me through. And so it's all that right there is a mind thing, what I went through in college to what got me to being a first team All-SEC player was, can you get your mental mind out of it and be the player you want to be after all you went through all this stuff? Mm-hmm. How can you get past all that? I'll be honest, like my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I let all that stuff affect me on the court. I did.
What were some of the things that the Christian counselor gave? What were some tips that they gave you that were helpful, or what are some of the ways that they helped you? Because we're talking about stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just that, you can't control some things that happen in your life, and I think I wanted to control everything. I wanted, instead of letting God control it, because he has a plan for our life. He knows exactly what's going to happen, but he gives us free will too. So we do get to make choices. And so I think that just knowing that, she always told me like, hey, like look to God, even in the bad. Just because something is you're struggling or something isn't going your way, that doesn't mean that God's saying no. That doesn't mean that God is punishing you, or that doesn't mean that he's not giving you what you want. Because sometimes what we want is not what God wants for us. And so when you understand that and you accept that, and you accept that you're not a perfect person, there's only one perfect person, and that's Jesus. You play for much more. You're playing for Jesus. I'm not playing for Sarah Ashlee Barker. I'm playing for the Lord, and I'm playing that I know that I'm glorifying everything that I do in his name, because he gave me an ability to play the game of basketball. And he's the reason he gets all the glory. Like I will stand by that, and I will never not shy away from sharing that.
That's awesome. I think oftentimes suffering enters into our life and we're in a bad position, and our first reaction is to run. Let me get away.
That's what I did.
It hurts.
Yep.
It feels bad.
I ran. Yep. I ran from God. Absolutely.
I think God is oftentimes putting us in a position of suffering so that he can make us whatever we need to be to get to heaven.
Yep.
And I think that's a huge place. So you're going through that season, you get into this season, I love the aspect of, you talked about kind of clearing your head and getting your mind right for the season coming up.
Yep.
When you were going in, as the season started going and you started to realize, hey, I'm at a different level than I was last year.
Yeah.
Because that can be kind of new at first, the first couple of games. When did you embrace that? And you're like, okay, this is who I am, and this is how I get to the level after this. I want to take this opportunity to tell you about the classes that we do at Black White Sports Performance. So everything we're talking about right now, Sarah Ashlee, has to do with athletic capability. These classes are designed to bring out the most potential out of an athlete as we possibly can. We focus on athletic skill. So we're working on speed, agility, power, strength, things that transfer directly onto the court, the field, the diamond, whatever it is. We can increase your athletic performance to get you into a skill setting. Some of the greatest athletes of all time, Michael Jordan, Roger Federer, have said the first thing you need to do as an athlete is to develop your athletic capabilities, your athletic characteristics. Then, after you've brought up your athletic ability, you can connect it to skill. And that's what we do. We have classes on speed, power, agility, strength, performance, all the above, and it's all tuned for the athlete specifically. Whatever that individual has going on, we have a program for you, and we can help you tailor that program for the sport that we have going on. So check out our classes. We have a link in the description for them. We have several different options for them, but it's going to be a high quality, high level, and elite level of training for the athlete that's coming up and wants to make the most out of their career.
Yeah. I think it was when we played up in Houston against Louisville. I think I had about 18 points. I didn't shoot the ball great, but I had 4 points going into halftime. And my coach looked at me and she's like, "You're capable of it. You can do it. Just like take a deep breath. Take a deep breath." And I think just those words were like, you know what, she's right. Like I've had 20-point games the past 4 games. Like, what's the difference of doing that and coming out here and just because I have 4 points this first half, that doesn't define me. That doesn't mean I'm going to go have 4 points in the second half. And so I think that being in that moment of, hey, I struggled the first half, but then I came back the second half and really like did what I was supposed to do and was able to get to the spots that I was not getting to in the first half and being able to correct my game. I think that's what helped me the most throughout the season was like, just if I have a bad quarter, that doesn't mean that I'm going to have a bad game. Yeah. And so I think that experience in that game kind of showed me like, hey, you know, you can go have a bad first half and then you can have a great freaking second half. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what just made me realize like, hey, you can go and do what you want to do as long as you can just have confidence within yourself and know that like you're still the same player no matter what type of game you have in the past. And whatever play you just made, if I turn the ball over, like you can go and make up for it. And so that's what that game showed me was like, hey, you're good enough to go score at this level. And they were a really good team. They were ranked, and it was like I don't think that Alabama was beating a ranked opponent, and I don't know, I can't tell you the details of it, but it was something. It was a big win for us. Yeah. And so I think for me, that just kind of gave confidence in me that like, hey, I didn't even have a good first half, but then the second half I ended up playing well and we won the game, not just because of me, but because of our team. And it just instilled confidence in me and having confidence from my coaching staff that they had in me. I knew they had confidence in me. It was always like, no matter, and I think that's what I knew that I could be really good last year was the confidence that the coaches had in me. Because it was like, if they have this much confidence in me, like I've got to have that too. You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't just have that confidence in me and just lie straight to my face about that. And so I think just having the confidence in what the coaches would always say to me and would want for me and push for me, I think that's what kind of made me realize like, hey, you can go do this year.
Those clicking moments as a player are huge. Like all off season, all in season, like we're working on athletic development, we're working on skill development, and you're putting all this stuff together, but so often it takes a moment, maybe where you see the ball go through the net and you're just like, okay, this is how it's going to be. I can use this stuff now. That happens all the time. All right, so this can be your whole career, but I want you to tell me, what is a memorable moment you have of a game that you think, and it could be that moment, but a moment that you had in a game that you would say had a significant impact on the rest of your career, on who you were as a player?
Goodness.
I was looking online, and this didn't have to be. I remember they kept bringing up the shot you did your freshman year. No, your freshman year at Spain Park.
Oh, Spain Park.
You hit the shot to force overtime.
Yeah, so that I did that my freshman year. We ended up losing in the state championship game, which sucked. But I would probably say, honestly, the shot that I hit against NC State my sophomore year. NC State was the number 2 team in the country, and we were down 3 with like 4 seconds left, and they drew up a play, and the play didn't go as planned. And somehow I ended up with the ball coming off a ball screen and just shot the ball. It went in, forced us into overtime. We ended up winning, and that was like one of the biggest wins in Georgia history in a long time, beating the number 2 team in the country. But I also had a really good game that game too against the number 2 team in the country. So it kind of made me realize like, hey, if I just settle into games and I can be the player that I want to be if I do it the right way. Yeah. Like I said, my sophomore year, I did go through a slump with stuff happening off the court that affected me, but I still remember that game, and I'm like, if I could do that then, you know, I can do that in other games too. And just doing it from a consistency standpoint. That was the biggest difference last year compared to all 3 of my college seasons previous, was I was consistently playing at that level, and I couldn't say that my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So kind of shift gears a little bit. Obviously, women's basketball is in a spotlight that it's never been in. And I think a huge reason for that is Caitlin Clark. Yeah, Caitlin Clark has just brought something to the game, trying to figure out what it is. It's interesting. I think she's brought this Steph Curry-ness to women's basketball, which is just so fun to watch. But she's doing some stuff that's really cool. So as a women's college basketball player, can you feel the impact that she has had on women's basketball where you are right now? Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I had a camp yesterday, and people were like, have you met Caitlin Clark? Have you played against Caitlin Clark? Have you done this? Have you done that? And I'm like, I haven't met her. I was like, I haven't played against her. But if you were a Division I basketball player and you're watching basketball and you love basketball, you watch those type of players. You watch games when you're not playing. So I got to watch her play a lot. And I think that just the kids' excitement around women's basketball comes a lot from Caitlin Clark, but it comes a lot from other players too. I mean, you mentioned Angel Reese and stuff like that. Angel Reese has done a great job growing the game. A lot of people try to bash her. And I'm like, why are you bashing a girl who literally is just trying to grow the game? And so I think that Angel Reese has done a great job too. But yeah, Caitlin Clark, she's brought to the game what we haven't seen before in a really long time on the women's side, like from a standpoint of what the crazy shots that she takes like Steph Curry does. I mean, you just don't see that, and you just don't see it. You don't. You've really seen it. Like, that's what Steph Curry was known for. And so Caitlin Clark has really brought that to the girls' game, just an excitement and a level of like, hey, she can do it too, from a woman's standpoint, if that makes sense. And so I think that just, and everything that she stands for and what she does, just from, she never, in my opinion, watching from an outsider looking in, like, she never lets things not go her way impact how she plays. Like, yeah, you might see frustration, but she doesn't let that continue the whole game and let it affect every single play, if that makes sense. She might take a bad shot, after she turned the ball over or something like that, but she doesn't ever let it affect the whole game. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to look at, is just like how, and she shows frustration because she's so competitive. That's how I see it. And so I think that that's too, is like, you're seeing girls be fiery and love the game. Her passion for the game, I think, is what really draws fans.
Yeah. I think so. And you played against Angel Reese.
I did.
What was it like playing against?
Playing against Angel Reese, I had to guard her my junior year. And then last year, thankfully, I didn't have to guard her. One of the things that I've always said about Angel Reese, she does her job. She knows what she needs to do on the court. She rebounds the crap out of the ball. She can also finish. But she gets down the floor so quick. She knows how to get position. She knows exactly where her miss is. If she misses it, she knows where it's going, and she's the first to get it. Always. And she never stops moving. And I think that's something that a lot of people can look at her game as like, she does her job, she knows her job, she plays her role. She does that. And a lot of players don't really understand their roles sometimes. And that's something that I've always, looked at from Angel Reese. She understands her roles and she does what she's supposed to do. She never takes a play off. And she can defend too. And she's a vocal leader. She's talking to her teammates the whole game. She's encouraging them. She wants them to encourage her. And like, she's getting on to them too. Like, she's definitely holding them accountable. So not only was she doing her job on the court and being, in a basketball standpoint, she's also doing it in a leadership standpoint of like, holding her teammates accountable, but she also holds herself accountable. She knows when she needs to do something, or when she didn't do something the best of her ability. And and I think that's something that's so great about her, is like, when I boxed her out my junior year, I was like, oh my gosh, like it was, she's strong. And she's just a good player. She knows the game of basketball too. Yeah. Last year we played them and she threw this ball behind her head, like caught the ball, threw it behind, and it's at home in Coleman Coliseum, and the fans go, ooh, like literally. And I'm like at our home court, and the fans like, ooh, and she throws it behind her head, a dime to Haley Van Lith. And I don't know I think Haley Van Lith ended up missing the shot, but the pass was incredible. Yeah. And I'm like, this girl is 6'4", and she didn't even look to see behind her, just catches the ball going full speed and just tosses it behind her, a dime. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people realize like what she can actually, how versatile she really is.
Absolutely. I was going to ask, because you've played against, Camila Cordozo, you've played against some great girls. Who are some of the girls that stand out in your mind that you've played against? You're like, this girl's at another level.
Yeah, Deasia Fair, she played at Syracuse. She was a point guard. That girl, she tore us up. I'll tell you that. Like, when we played them in Syracuse last year, she tore us up. My freshman sophomore year, I believe, I played against Ryan Howard. She's with the Atlanta Dream. I've never seen somebody come off a ball screen like she does and just be able to shoot it. Just shoot. It's crazy. And then I'm trying to think who else. I've played against so many good players, honestly, that like my brain is kind of like spinning.
So many of them are in the league now.
Yeah, so many. Rakia Jackson at Tennessee, I guarded her last year. Great player. I've always loved that matchup just because I think that she always plays hard, and a lot of the players that I mentioned, they always play hard. They're always, they want what's best for the team, and they're going to do what they need to do, if that makes sense. And they do their job. I think that's just one of the things that I've realized. And then I played with people on my Georgia team, like Hugh Morrison, Jenna Stady, like all them. Maya Caldwell, she got drafted when she probably didn't think she was going to get drafted her senior year when I was a freshman. And she ended up getting drafted and going to the Atlanta, who'd she get drafted by? Atlanta Dream, I think. I could be wrong. Anyways, no, I don't know. She got drafted by somebody, I can't remember, but she got drafted and then she went and played overseas. And so I've just been around and played against a lot of really, really good players.
Yeah, it's so cool. So also, you've been around Nick Saban a little bit. You have to have been. You were there at Alabama
Right.
as his last season as a coach. Did you ever have any interactions with him? Did you ever come around?
Honestly, like I think that I might have seen him once or twice. I really didn't see him that much. My brother was a GA the past 2 years for him. And so he would always just talk about how great he is and just the standard that he holds. And everything that he says in press conferences, that's who he is. He preaches it. He teaches it. And I think just having Nick Saban be a part of the University of Alabama, like it makes other teams want to be great and understand his legacy and how much of a legend he really is. Because, you've got to be able to work hard to be able to play for Nick Saban. That's what I've always heard is like he's going to make you work hard. It's gonna be hard, but you're going to do it. And it's always you've got to earn it. And so I think that's just something that you're lucky to have at Alabama is have someone who with that type of nature and honestly like just the type of leader he probably is and just being able to have access to the videos that he ever posts. You're like, oh, that's a part of our university. It's just really cool.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. Yeah. Something that I think is really interesting. I remember when I was growing up, Charles Barkley talked about. He always said he wasn't a role model. Yeah. And that always bothered me because he's got all these kids are watching what Charles Barkley does. Right. And he kept bringing up, I'm not a role model because he was doing stuff that role models shouldn't do. He was doing, and I'm going to put it out there. Yeah. So you are a role model. And I think specifically watching women's basketball, the cameras always pan to these little girls who are watching you guys just with wide open eyes. Yeah. What is it? Because at the stage you're on, especially, y'all had arguably the best season that Alabama women's basketball has ever had last year. Yeah. You're straight up on a pedestal right now. Mm-hmm. What does that feel like? Do you even notice that? Do you know there's a weight on your shoulders for kids?
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't say pressure. I would kind of say it's more just like that you want to be able to play so well for these kids in this program that is where maybe pressure would come into, but you don't let it get to you. I think that you want. When I was a little kid, I would always look up to people and watch them play, even if they weren't, that great. But I want to see how they play in the high school, even if they didn't go play Division I. I didn't care. But when you watch those older people as you're younger, you just want to see how they act with people, how they treat people, and all that kind of stuff. So I think for always me is like, if I run into anybody, I'm going to treat them as nice as I can. I'm going to try and be the best person that I can. I'm not always going to be the best person. We're not perfect. But I think just as a role model, you try to accept the role that you're in and you just try to understand that, like, hey, these kids are looking up to you. Try to go say hey to them. Go give them a high five. Go sign their jersey. Go do this. Like give back because the game has given me so much. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me is I've always just wanted to give back and do things for people and train little kids and because that's what I looked up to when I was younger. I looked up to the older people that were playing sports that were ahead of me and so I think that I've just always just tried to give back just like people gave back to me.
Do you have a few people that stick out in your head who you looked up to and like, oh man, that's so?
Yeah, honestly, like I'll say growing up, not really. I think that I was around football so much that I just was always around football. It was like my brothers, if that makes sense. And I watched football a lot. We were always talking about football. I loved watching Kobe Bryant play. I really did. And I loved watching Mymore play. Just both of them. Both of them. But when it came to Kobe, just the Mamba mentality just has always stuck with me because I think that just he's relentless. Like he literally just goes out all the time. He would play for 40 minutes like as hard as he could. Like you knew you were going to get him playing as hard as he could. And he didn't just play hard on offense. He played hard on defense. And so I think that watching him play like that, it made me want to be able to play like that on both sides of the ball. And then also just like him giving back to the community. He did so much for the game of basketball and he was going to do so much for the women's game too. Just what he was, who knows what he would have done in the past 3 years with the women's game if he wouldn't have passed, you know what I mean? And so I think just like seeing how he gave back and how he poured so much into the game that gave him so much is kind of how I want to be able to live basketball. It's like the game gave me so much, I want to be able to pour into it as much as I can.
Yeah. So do you remember where you were when you found out that he passed?
Yeah, I was actually at the University of Georgia watching them play Kentucky, which is crazy. I was on an unofficial visit. Yep. Yeah. Yep. I was like, what? Like, I couldn't believe it at first, honestly. I don't think anybody could. Even to this day, it's so crazy that just all that happened. But he's a legend of the game for sure. And just his mentality was just unlike anybody. So. Yep.
So you see, I mean, you have young athletes coming up all the time. We've talked about that player who they're the same player from sophomore to senior year. What are some common mistakes that you wish somebody would have told you, hey, Sarah, Ashlee, don't do this when you're coming up? Or what's some things that you see young athletes mess up with that they, if they know about it, they can stop it?
I think understanding how much like details matter. I think that like I'm being completely honest, like within an offense, or if a coach is telling you to do something, they're not telling you to do it because they're trying to control you. They're telling you to do it because they know that it's what works and they've seen it work. Like they're not just going to tell us something if it's just coming out, they're not just going to tell us something random. And so the details of it, of like, understanding how someone's guarding you too. I think from an offensive standpoint, you really have to understand how someone's guarding you. And if you don't, then you're just out there just playing the game of basketball. So I think if I wish somebody would have came to me in high school and been like, hey, understand the details more of basketball and in your offense than understanding like trying to, do all this ball handling work or all this like, because there's some stuff, I'm gonna be honest, that trainers do. And you can't do that in a basketball game. You need to sit in the film room when you're younger, or even just watch. You need to watch basketball. You need to figure out like how the game is played. Because if you don't know the game of basketball, your skill is not gonna override the game of basketball. Like if there's somebody who you're even with skill wise, but they know the game of basketball more than you, they're gonna beat you every single time. They are. And so I think that if someone, and luckily for me, I grew up watching the game. I grew up having a good understanding of the game of basketball, but I've seen people where they're very skill leveled, but the knowledge of basketball, they don't really know. So I think that at a young age, you've really got to be able to teach people the game of basketball and how you move and the details of, like, people don't realize that the small things, like the small details, like jump stop off 2 feet, the easy things, how much those truly matter, and being great at those, and then being able to add into your game. But like all the NBA and WNBA players, they play so well at their pace. They can go off 2 feet. They don't turn the ball over. They know how to cut and move with the ball, but they also know how to defend, and they know how to be when you're supposed to rotate and all that kind of stuff, and talking, communicating. So I think just learning the game of basketball before you go out to a trainer and learn all this, between the legs, behind the back, step back, like you can't do that in a game. You can't, like you just can't. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that trainers are looked at as bad, because you need that ball handling, you need those type of trainings. But at the same time, you've got to also train your mind of the game. So, yeah.
Sport itself is such a game of positioning. So basketball might be the best example of a game of positioning. You don't have to be, it helps to be the fastest. It helps to jump the highest, but you don't have to just to be in a good position.
Absolutely.
I think awesome in any sport, if you can prepare your body and your mind, like you're talking about, to be where you need to be, you're going to do fine. You're going to do great. And you're going to take your athletic potential as long as it can. Right. And that's all we really need to do is figure out, this is the athletic gifts that God's given me. How far can I go? So speaking to that, you're on our team here at Black Watch. We're bringing you on, and you're going to coach some camps for us. We're going to do a lot for us. What are some aspects of coaching that you have loved, that this is how you've loved to be coached, this is what you admire in other coaches, and how do you plan to carry that out as a coach to some of these athletes who are going to come and look for you, say, okay, I'm your student now, tell me what's
right. Growing up, I've always been the player that's like, just tell me the truth, tell me, like give it to me, like kind of like hardcore, kind of like, I don't want you to beating around the bush, telling me I'm doing this, like, if I need to be somewhere, tell me I need to be there. If I mess up on a play, tell me I mess up on a play. Like, don't try and go around it and or pat me on the back. I don't want that. Like, I think that as a player, you want to be told the truth. You want positive feedback. You want negative feedback, but you don't want negative feedback all the time, because then it just gets in your head. And for me, like, if someone was always negative with me, then I'm like, nothing I ever do is good. You know what I mean? And so I think as me wanting to be a coach in the future and having coaches that know that balance of, like, one, every player is different. You have to understand how you can coach each person differently, because they may take it differently. And that's also with a player too. You have to understand, what is that coach teaching you, because you have to adapt to them as they're adapting to you. It works both ways in a coaching and a player relationship, in my opinion. And so I've been fortunate enough to have great coaches that do that with me, that tell me the truth, and that also are hard on me. And I think as a kid, you need to be able to take the hard stuff and not take it personal. Sometimes I took coaching personal, And all that does is just put you in your head. But when you know that someone is coaching you and they do it with their passion and they love you too, you just got to take it from what they're saying. You don't take it how they're saying it. You take what they're saying. Mm. It's not about how, it's about what they're saying to you. And that's what I would try to teach these kids is like, hey, when I'm telling you the details, really figure out what I'm saying. Don't just listen to don't just listen. Like really detail in on the words that I'm saying, what I'm emphasizing. And if I tell you you're doing something wrong, that doesn't mean you suck at basketball. That just means that you have this, you're here and you can go here.
I think we always like to say that sports can teach you character and sports can help you develop in life. Yep. But the truth of it is we see incredible athletes enter into a sport and then their life does not go as well as we'd like it to. Yep. It tailspins off. Mm-hmm. But then you do have awesome examples of athletes who have come through the ranks in sports and they do have these lives that are seemingly a great life to look up to, someone to look up to. Right. What do you think it is? How can someone develop their sports career, develop their athletic career to choose the good path and not the bad path? Do you have any insight on that?
I mean, I think that growing up, I was very fortunate, with how I grew up with my family and that kind of stuff. I had a family that my mom and dad were around. I mean, my parents were divorced, but they were around. They supported me. They were at all my games. I mean, my mom took me to everything. And so I think that the way that I was raised and what especially my mom instilled in me is just like, you've always got to earn. You're not just given anything. You got to earn it. And so you work hard. And even when you work hard and you're not given something, that doesn't mean that you quit. That doesn't mean that you stop doing something. And so I think that just her giving me those words and seeing her, how hard she works in her work of life and her faith in God, it just all the things that she's had to go through and stuff like that. I think that that's what's made me realize is like, there's so much to be thankful for and grateful for. And so I think that from how I grew up, that's what's kind of made me the person I am and the basketball player I am. But I think that a lot of people they may grow up in a different lifestyle. They may not have a mom. And that's with everything you do in life. So I think that the players that you see that are so great, they're not great just in their sport. They're great in other areas and aspects of their life too. I think it's everything that you do in school and your faith and relationships, friends, the community, what you're doing. I think that those type of athletes that understand that it's not just I'm going to give my all in this part of my life. You give your all in kind of everything, and you have a purpose, and you know your purpose is what kind of gets you to the point and who you are. Is just living the purpose, if that makes sense.
I like that, and I love what you said about gratitude. Gratitude so often comes before you're actually gracious. Yes. Like you have to show like, okay, I'm grateful just for the opportunity to be there before anything good happens.
Exactly.
That's really good. Who is your favorite basketball player of all time? I'm not gonna follow up after that, but who's your favorite basketball player?
Basketball player? I mean, probably Kobe, like we talked about. Definitely Kobe, for sure.
Was it his work ethic, or what was it about Kobe that?
Yeah, it was his work ethic. Honestly, it really was. I mean, he just works and works and works. But I mean, at the same time, like when I look at the WNBA, like even right now, like I love watching A'ja Wilson play. Like her skill set with how tall she is and what she can be, what she can do at that level. And she is like, and she just works so hard. Like she's a great defender, great offensive threat. Like she just is so good at the game. And then just anything that you've ever heard is like, she's such a good leader too. Mm-hmm. And so even though she's in the WNBA right now, I still look up to that stuff. I still look up to players in the WNBA. Mm-hmm. But Kobe definitely is my all-time favorite. And then I love Luka's game, love Luka's game. I think that the way he literally controls the game is unbelievable, just the way he controls the game. But yeah, Kobe's mentality is really just kind of something that's always resonated with me. So
absolutely. Who is your favorite coach of all time?
Oh man,
it can't be any coach you've ever played for.
No, right. I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say a coach that I've ever played for. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm trying to think. Oh goodness, who's my favorite coach of all time? Gosh. That's not hard. I mean, I really like Steve Kerr from Golden State. I mean, I love how he just is able to. Their offense is so amazing. I mean, I just love offensive-minded coaches, honestly. Mm-hmm. And then what's the Boston Celtics coach?
Oh man, what is his name? Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about though.
It's a red or box.
Yeah, we know who. The Boston Celtics coach. They just won the NBA championship. I just love how he openly speaks about his faith. And that's something that I think now I'm like, yeah, that's like the coach that I really like to watch and listen to, and see what he has to say. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and unabashedly, like he's not afraid to go there.
Yes.
I love that. So you've got some big plans with basketball. Like you're about to wrap up your college career. You got one more season, going to get everything you have.
Yep.
What's your plan for basketball this final year, and also moving past that?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, I would love to have a great year like I did last year and just kind of just be consistent with it. I don't need to be anything extraordinary or go do this. Like, I just need to have consistent numbers pretty much. And then I would love to go play in the WNBA. I hope I get drafted. I hope I make a team. I don't think a lot of people realize how hard it is, one, to get drafted, but not even to get drafted is to make a team. I think there was an article that came out, it was like 13 of the 36 people that got drafted are the only people that made a team. Everybody else got cut. And so I think that that's just something that I'm hoping for, is that I just make a team, if that makes sense. Like, I want to get drafted and be able to get drafted, but I really want to make a team. And then if I don't get drafted, we'll see what overseas looks like and that kind of stuff. I would love to go. I just want to continue playing, honestly. I don't want to. I say that I wouldn't want to play overseas that much because I'm hoping that I get to play in the WNBA and make a team, but I would never count myself out when it comes to overseas, just because I think I would be mad at myself later on in life if I didn't give basketball more of a chance, if I didn't make a WNBA team, if that makes sense.
I like that. Final thing, and we can end on this, is what piece of advice do you wish someone would have told you when you're starting to consider, man, I could really do this basketball thing, I could really do this sports thing? Yeah. What do you wish someone would have told you?
Sure. I wish someone would have told me that, just because you love a game so much doesn't mean that you have to like change, not change who you are, because I never changed who I am, but doesn't mean that there's other stuff that goes on in your life that's not going to impact the game of basketball, if that makes sense. Like, I think that when I'm talking about that, it's like, you're going to have other life issues that come along the way, but don't let that impact the love and how much you love the game of basketball. And don't let that affect how you play, and don't let other things carry it onto the court. I think I wish I would have just had somebody just been like, you're going to go through some hard stuff. You can get through it, but still love the game of basketball, and don't let something else take your love away from basketball. Because I'm going to be honest, when I was in those struggles of my freshman and sophomore year, I started to hate basketball. Not hate it, but I started to dislike it. And I really was like, is this even what I want to do? I mean, and there was times where I would have terrible games, and I'm like, this isn't even fun. I think just understanding, like, hey, just go have fun with it. If you suck that game, cool. Like that like at the end of the day, basketball isn't the greatest thing in life. Like, it's not. It's just something that God has given you a gift to go do and play and love, and you just get that opportunity to just go do it.
Amen. I love that. Well, we will end on that. Guys, we'll put Sarah Ashlee's Instagram and stuff in the description. You can follow along there and check us out coming up. Yeah. She's got some camps coming up. Yeah. We got some really cool camps coming up before and after season. Yes. So check that out. But it's awesome. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.